Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Titus and Sergio Variety Hour. And good news today, we actually have 50% of that title back. Sergio Paradise is back. Now, Serge, it is great to have you back. I missed you while you were away because I had no one to talk nonsense to.
Oh, that's good.
On a daily basis. But also, I thought you were at schoolies. And it turns out you weren't at schoolies.
I wasn't at schoolies. I tried to go on a toolies trip with a bunch of old mates, but I couldn't even get a flight. But no, look, I should tell the truth. I actually been in hospital for a couple of weeks. I had open heart surgery to repair a leaky mitral valve, which is not a life and death issue, but it's does knock you around a bit. But they fix you up, and all of a sudden you come good, and you're potentially as fit as you could be since you're 20 years old.
But they cut you right open, didn't they?
It's the dead set chainsaw through the
You said it was the most
chest.
painful thing you'd ever been through.
Yeah, absolutely. It was. You wake up in intensive care, and you're desperate for a drink because the heavy painkillers just make you dehydrated.
Yeah.
But because they've ripped your chest open with a chainsaw and then pulled your ribs apart to do the gear, you're lying in bed, and every time you move, like even move a toe or scratch your knee, you're just in staggering pain. That's only for a day or so, but it's a pretty uncomfortable old operation, I've got to say.
And you're almost back to full strength.
Almost back to full strength. I'll tell you what, I've got the ripping scar down the chest.
Yeah,
I've got the
impressive.
zipper down the scar. Look, I should tell you that one of the worst things about that, the night before the operation, they're preparing you for it the next day, and you've got to stay up, don't drink or eat and fast and all that sort of stuff. And I had this young nurse, this girl called Adrian, who was about 22, and she was fantastic, and she was looking after me. She came in about 8 o'clock the night before. She said, "Look, I'm going to have to shave you from the neck to your waist." And I thought, that makes sense.
Let your dream come true.
Yeah. And then she went and got the the Gillette G2 and the shaving cream. And when she came back, she said to me, "Oh, look, I just had a chat to my boss. It's not neck to waist. I have to shave you from neck right down to the top of your thighs, which includes your entire downstairs area."
Right.
To which I replied, "Adrian, I don't know how much you get paid, but it's not enough to have to do that. How about you do me to the waist and I'll do the next bit?" Which she goes, "Fine."
I thought like a look of disappointment would flash across her face.
I think she was quite happy about that. And I've got to tell you, if you've never done it, you've got to be careful.
Well, there you go, listeners. That's some there's some raw honesty.
Here's a tip for young players.
Well, it's very good that you've come through, because I knew it was while you were saying it wasn't incredibly risky these days, they're actually very good at this these days. Yeah. It's still enough for you to be a bit, a little nervous. Oh, yeah,
exactly. If they're going to rip your chest open and start fiddling around, there's always a bit of a risk involved. But now I'm back, and now I'm just, trying to get fit again.
Yeah.
But, looking forward to 2018. I reckon I'm a chance to come off a rookie list somewhere.
It's much better. Well, Port might take you. They seem to take everyone else. We should also just mention briefly, funnily enough, the minute this Don Burke stuff happened, I instantly thought of you.
Yeah, so a few other people, by the way.
Now, I didn't think of you because you're a Don Burke type behind the scenes. Because you are one of those people you're exactly like you are on air as you are off. But you worked at Channel 9.
I did in that
exact same time. And did you? He was in Sydney though. You were in Melbourne, obviously. So there's a bit of a disconnect.
Yeah, he didn't his show was being produced at TCN 9 for the first few years. Up there before he went and produced it himself off station.
Before they quarantined him.
Yeah. And we didn't see much of him in Melbourne. Although it has to be said, and I'm not the first one to be saying that this week, everybody knew. I mean, Don would occasionally come to Melbourne to shoot some stories for Burke's Backyard.
Yeah.
And then, of course, he would pick up a GTV9 camera crew, camera guy and a sound recordist and whoever, and a producer for the day.
And those guys have seen everything.
They've seen it all. They've seen every bit of slightly diva behaviour from TV stars.
Yeah.
And you kind of expect a bit of it because from TV stars because they're the ones putting themselves out there and they like things to go right.
And it's a high pressure.
It's a high pressure gig,
stuff, yeah.
and they're the ones who look bad if something goes wrong.
But there's a difference between being annoyed that something wasn't done properly.
Yeah, and just being
Don Burke.
Yeah, I won't use the words that was, but he was regarded as an absolute of a bloke by all the guys and the girls sort of who work in the editing. They go, "Oh, Don Burke, he's the biggest sleaze you've ever met." Well, I said, really? Really, you see the genial, gardening guy, and it's hard to credit. But back in those days, 20, 25 years ago, everyone at Channel 9 knew what he was like.
Yeah.
But I mean, as has been come out this week, when you're a cash cow for a big network, and Burke's Backyard was one of the very first TV shows in Australian TV where there was integrated commercials, which is like they would actually have commercials within the actual program where he would
recommend products.
He would recommend product and hold up, a certain kind of, weed killer or something, and they would have paid big bucks for that. Up until that point, ads were just ads that went on in the ad break. And so he sort of changed the rules a bit there, but he was enormously unpopular. But because he was making millions of dollars for Channel 9, blind eyes were turned, and it was like, and back in those days, you just get over it. If you want to work in TV, that's something you got to put up with sometimes.
The thing that where this is all going is, it's gone from Hollywood. You could argue even the AFL had this earlier in the year with Lethlean and Simkus and sacking those two guys, which is a recent example.
Yeah.
But this turns its way to TV and sport and politics. You look at, for our area of our podcast, you look at sport.
Yeah.
You just wonder how when's it going to all start hitting, hitting the fan and this stuff.
You'd think,
because it's rife. It still is
It still is a bit, and the thing is, you could go back to those days and they'd say, "Oh, that's just how it was back then."
Yeah.
Today, which is an exaggeration and no excuse.
Because they all knew it was wrong. Right? The thing I get about it is they all knew it was wrong, but it was just back then. It was just covered up was the way it was dealt with,
and it was just if you were the one to complain, and
and you don't cover something up if you think it's fine.
Yeah, and for the ones who did complain then, and of course they'd be 95% women.
Yeah,
they would be basically told, well, suck it up. That's the way it is. You want to work in TV, that's one of the things you have to put up with.
Yeah.
Whereas today, if it comes out with whether it's sports people, whoever else, there's no excuse today, especially young sports. But there's so much education, there is no excuse that you can bring forward these days. Whereas they're all saying, "Oh, back then that was kind of the way it was."
Yeah.
It's not the way it is today.
Well, I reckon it's just going to blow up in sports soon. Yeah. It's inevitable.
Just wait till it hits the podcast world. The world of podcasts.
That's where the big money is. There's not enough money to just shut it down overnight. Now, while that's all been, I just thought that was interesting because you were there at the time. But while that's all, true love's not dead.
No, it's not.
Sergio Paradise, it's not dead.
No.
And I'll tell you why it's not. One way it's not. The first test, despite seeing England just absolutely put to the sword, had a young bloke propose to his girlfriend in the pool
at the Gabba
in his Speedos.
How Australian is that?
During the game.
The fact that they even have a pool at the Gabba is magnificent.
Would you want to go in that pool though?
Oh, can you
bunch
imagine?
of drunk blokes and women getting in and out of that pool all day.
Exactly what I was going to say. It'd only be about 70% water, I reckon, by the end of the day. A lot of chlorine, but there'd be plenty else in there.
The chlorine, it must be mainly chlorine.
Yeah. Oh, could you imagine? Do you reckon they'll get one at the MCG? Maybe they have one in the members.
Oh,
the members pool.
It would suit Melbourne more if they had like a graffiti-filled cafe.
Yeah.
Next to a dumpster.
Yeah.
Come sit in a dumpster.
Made out of an old shipping container.
Yeah, there you're talking.
Yeah, but if they had a pool in the MCC members,
they
have, you could only swim in there in sort of neck to knee trunks. You could be no other way to.
The thing about this is, I can't decide if this guy proposing in his Speedos at the cricket is either one of the greatest things that's ever happened or one of the worst things that's ever happened.
It's a fine line, isn't it?
It really is, because it's just like, really? I mean, at least he didn't have a KFC bucket on his head.
Yeah, thank Christ, Vader. He wasn't dressed as Richie Benno. One thing that come out of that first test, I'm not sure who I hate more, the KFC bucket heads or the Richies.
You don't like the Richies?
Not big on the Richies. I thought the Richies thing was cool a couple of years ago when there was only a couple of them, but now it's got out of hand. There's too many of them. I hate those big inflatable Channel 9 microphone things. They just annoy me. It used to be the Fanatics.
I'm glad to see this heart operation hasn't changed you.
Between the Fanatics, the Bucketheads, and the Richies, I reckon that those three things sums up everything that's wrong with not just modern sport, but modern world in general.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Young people having fun.
Yeah, young people taking the piss and having fun. It shouldn't be allowed.
Can't they just drink? Well, I guess you can't drink heavily anymore because it's all mid-strength.
It's all mid-strength. But the good thing about the bloke who proposed to his girlfriend in the pool, at least she said yes. She couldn't have been, too upset that was the location or the timing.
She's a keeper.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
At least, you would have thought he would have arranged for something to go up on the scoreboard at the same time.
I think proposing while you're drunk at the cricket is...
In your Speedos.
In your Speedos.
Where did he keep the ring? Where was the ring? Where did he pull that from?
Now, it was a... It was a weird test because the first 3 days basically was, really interesting. Like it was slow at points and boring at other points, but it was actually like we like to say, an arm wrestle.
Yeah. Well,
to coin a phrase.
As you know, with so many of the sporting events we've discussed on this podcast, I actually haven't watched any of it. But because I've been pretty much housebound and couchbound.
Yeah, I was about to say, how did you not watch any of this?
I watched all the tests.
Oh, good,
and I was flicking between that and the golf over the weekend, but mainly the test. And the first 2 or 3 days, I thought, geez, Australia in big trouble here when they went in. And,
when they collapsed in that first innings, if it wasn't for Steve Smith.
Yeah, but even the second innings, when they only had 170 to win, I was thinking, if ever there was a time for a classic Australian batting collapse, it's going to be now. Until
but they just cruised
10 overs through, I thought, they're just going to do it on the bit. But it was a funny, as you say, it was a funny sort of cricket match because...
Oh, it was weird. It was...
Often you can tell...
It was a test match of 2 halves.
Or, as Mark Taylor pointed out, 3 balls into the very first over of the very first day. There's a long way to go in this test match. He did say that.
Weren't they on fire, the Channel 9 crew? Just more of the same.
I mean, the 2 weeks leading up, there was so much criticism about the composition of the Channel 9 commentary team. And they didn't let us down. From the moment it started, you just thought, this is just horrendous. It is just pathetic. Yeah,
I know. It was bizarre. And what was with Kevin Peterson's outfits?
Oh, yeah.
It's like none of it matched.
No. He just didn't care.
He looked like someone was stealing individual bits of his clothes and he was having to borrow stuff from other people.
Well, he probably was.
Probably coming in late. So it was pretty easy there overall. Now, we've had a few questions about this. Matthew Donald wrote in, when does the English cricket team arrive in Australia?
Yeah, good question.
Oh, they have been all over the shop. Rowan Marshall wrote in, as an Englishman, when does AFL X start? Oh, now we haven't spoken because you were off with this heart thing, that you say it was a heart thing.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced you didn't get those scars at school still. I'm still not 100% convinced, but anyway.
Yeah, it does look a bit like a jagged stubbing down the chest.
That's right. I thought you were just getting a bit handsy, a bit Berkey. The AFL X it's happening, we've been told now. It's all been confirmed.
And you know what? Yeah, I did read about this, and I hate to say it even at this early stage, but it seems like there might be a bit of a buzz around it.
See, even if I'm like the Japanese soldier that doesn't want to admit the war's over, this is the hill I'll die on, is AFL X. And even if it's a massive success, I'll be the grumpy guy going...
No.
This is terrible. At least I'm honest that that's my position. But, how long do you give it of actually lasting?
Well, well, they're going to run it for a couple of weeks or something.
Yeah, but but how many? Do you think this will? Do you think in 5 years there'll still be AFLX being played by the top AFL sides, not like at the lower?
Don't know. The interesting thing, they'll have to give it a second year. There's no question of that.
Yeah.
How it goes beyond that, who knows? I mean, their whole idea about this is it's going to help them expand the game internationally, which, as we know, has never worked and never will.
Fool's errand.
Yeah. But the fact that they can
try and win over Greater Western Sydney first.
Yeah, maybe put a team in Tassie, perhaps. But
I hear they play some football down there,
and they don't mind it. They enjoy their footy down there.
But then I look at international rules, and it's limped along all this time with very little interest from the public.
Nah,
as much as they keep trying to talk it up.
I actually, and I once again, I hate to admit it, I actually kind of enjoyed the international rules games.
You were on a lot of painkillers.
I was on OxyContin at the time.
Yeah, so you were enjoying anything.
And it was on a TV screen 12 feet away that was about the size of an A4 sheet of paper.
Yeah, you were hallucinating all the way through it. That's why you thought it was great.
Well, at one stage I thought Nat Fyfe was best on the ground. I mean, that's how the drugs had kicked in. But
I don't know. See, to me, it's just all stuff that's peripheral to the actual game. That's my problem with it.
I must admit, it was half entertaining to watch, but it did strike me as a bit of a fun training run or rort for the players. People walked off and gone, yeah, that was good fun, but no more fun than a good night of circle work would do.
But the thing for me about international rules, and I think it'll be the same with the AFLX, is we've got this terrific game that already exists. We don't need to. They keep tweaking with it. Like, it's the most popular sport in Australia, pretty much. Yeah. And they keep tweaking with it all the time. Like, there's something wrong with it.
Well, AFLX, I mean, the whole idea is just to be able to play it on a smaller ground, like a soccer-sized pitch with less players. But again...
But can you imagine a player of any note going, or a rookie, because they'll play rookies or whatever, goes down in this?
Oh, I'll tell you that if one player does an ACL or something in AFLX...
That's it.
Yeah. There'll just about be lawsuits over that.
Did you hear in because they're playing a lot of it in Adelaide United's home ground, they're furious because they didn't get told. The ground just booked it 2 days ahead of their game. And so you've got the reverse here where the A-League's sort of furious with the AFL and they didn't get told, so it's all over the shop. Although one thing I heard about Adelaide United, just going off tangent a bit, is... They've admitted that they're looking for a new CEO and Adelaide United in the A-League, and one of the people they've approached and they're very keen on is Stephen Trigg.
Oh, Triggy, he's...
Oh, yeah, we got this further on, don't we?
Yeah, but we'll go to it now.
No, let's go back to the test and then I'll go that. I've skipped ahead. That's just a little preview of what's coming off. We're out of rhythm, Serge.
But preview...
like your heart before the operation.
We're getting more like a current affair coming up after the break.
Another question we had, Blake Reynolds wrote in, what was slower, the Gabba pitch or Australia's progression towards accepting gay marriage? I think it might have been the Gabba pitch, and that's really saying something.
Exactly, but the thing is, the gay marriage thing, you just kind of expected it was going to drag on forever and a day.
Yeah.
Whereas the Gabba pitch, you expected to have a bit more zing about it. It was incredible.
But the marriage equality debate isn't even over.
No, it's barely started. It's got to get through Parliament,
But it hasn't even started in that, so it's slower than possibly even the Gabba pitch. But
True.
I love how much the curator up at the Gabba just cops it from everyone.
And before the first test, the legendary Gabba curator, he retired and his best mate or his son or somebody was taking over. And they're all saying he's the greatest of all time. Halfway through the first session, they're going, this curator needs to be sacked immediately. He's a shocker.
Should be shot, someone said. Well, people are good about reacting like that. Rodders wrote in, has the Australian selectors' policy of picking for potential over merit now been vindicated?
Well,
Neville wasn't great. Not Neville, Payne wasn't great,
He was pretty good behind the stumps, but...
He dropped that catch early on.
He dropped one catch off line. That he
Marsh did his normal thing of when we'd all got to fever pitch of this is the worst made of 50.
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see if he
did put his stops through Mitchell Stark's leg too, which was pretty handy.
It's for him. For him, it's
man.
going to be for Marsh. It's going to be like, can he consistently do it?
Well, unfortunately, the fact that he made that 50 in the first innings means he's cemented his spot for the rest of the series.
That's right. Now, the other thing that's been quite interesting, Cameron Bancroft had an interesting press conference. Did you watch the press conference?
I did. That was pretty funny.
And Johnny Bairstow, who apparently greeted him with a headbutt in a Perth bar earlier this month, and then they continued drinking together for the rest of the night.
Is that an English thing or a Perth thing?
I think it's I've just got back from Perth and I didn't.
No one headbutted you in a bar?
No, which is saying something. Because if anyone's going to be headbutted, it's going to be me. Bancroft said, I got into a very amicable conversation with Johnny. He just greeted me with a headbutt. I was expecting a handshake. It wasn't the greeting of choice that I expected. There was certainly no malice in it, and we continued having a very good conversation for the rest of the evening. At the time, he said sorry. For me personally, it was just weird. I didn't see it coming. He says hello to people very differently to others. He connected with my head with a force that made me think, that's a bit weird.
So it obviously wasn't enough force to, do any damage to break his nose or split his chin open, but it's still, as Bancroft points out rightly, it is a very unusual form of greeting.
Weird.
I mean, the Eskimos rub noses and most Westerners shake hands or,
Yeah, that's right.
Injure thing. You got Johnny Bairstow, you got Ben Stokes.
Yeah.
And Ben Stokes, he's sort of out he's not in Australia yet. He's
gone to New Zealand to play a game. And I like how they're all pretending it's, he, as a private citizen, it's unrelated to us. And you're like,
It's interesting that New Zealand, once again, are accepting people who can't get into Australia.
They are willing to take. The thing about Stokes is that the chair of the ECB, he came out and said, they're talking about the punishment and could he come back? And he said, well, I think there's he went on this long thing saying, I think there's the opportunity for sports to show their best and let players rehabilitate on the field.
Yeah.
And you're like, that. So you're just not going to ban people if they do bad things. You're going to pretend this rehabilitate on the field, which really means we're not banning them. It's what do they think we're idiots?
He's taken a leaf out of the AFL playbook there. Guys get caught for something, and of course the club's not going to suspend them because it penalises. This was always Mick Malthouse's thing. It penalises the whole team.
Yeah,
which is probably the point of the punishment, you would have thought.
Yeah,
but with Stokes, I mean, I'm surprised that they haven't sorted this out earlier, the ECB, and got him back within the fold.
Yeah.
If he'd been an Australian, if this had been Mitchell Stark, our key opening bowler,
You're saying we would have been softer than them?
Oh, he would have been back. He would have got a slap on the wrist and been back in the
Banned him from a Sheffield Shield game.
Yeah, and been back in the nets next Monday.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised the English have let this go on because, let's be honest, they could do with Stokes.
But there were criminal charges and everything pending and stuff like that, which I think
but you can wait until all that comes, and that can be
that's secondary to the actual.
Well, that's what you pay lawyers for, is to delay all that sort of thing till after the tour. Yeah.
Dean Stainsbury said, "Did Johnny act badly because he has a hard life, or been mistreated, or like some people, is he just a jerk?" Now that's paraphrasing a Simpsons episode.
It is.
Which we often get them crept into our. Into our questions. Liam Ahern said, will the ICC now enforce helmets for players when socialising with one another?
Wouldn't you like to see that? Wouldn't you like to walk into a pub and you look over,
bunch of blokes
there's 20 blokes in helmets going, oh, Jesus, the cricketers are here again.
Johnny's here. Johnny's showed up. Put your helmets on. Yeah, if you're not having a drink with Johnny, you're like facing a spinner. You can take it off. Yeah. But when he comes in, when it's his turn. Jamie Mills wrote in, should Cameron Bancroft be more upset by the inane questions he had to endure in the post-match presser, or the fact that he had a century on debut nipped in the bud because England couldn't post a decent target?
Another good question.
I'm a bit sick though of the like Warner and Bancroft, and pretty much every other player except for really Marsh and Steve Smith in the main, who just I'm talking really mainly the top order, collapsing in the first innings.
Yeah.
Like, it's all right. Like, playing well in the second innings is great, especially if you win. But you need the big scores in or the consistency at
You
least.
make 400 or 500 in the first innings.
Even if they all made 30, it's the fact they all go out for like very little. And, and Khawaja can't play spin.
No.
Like, how can you have someone who can't play one of the forms of bowling? That's saying he can't play spin. That's really like saying you can't play cricket.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think they're not making any changes for the second test in Adelaide, are they?
I haven't heard any yet. When I last saw.
I tell you, Khawaja would want to get some runs because surely they'd think about bringing Maxwell in for Khawaja for the Melbourne test.
He played.
Yeah,
I agree. But Khawaja's just, if you can't play spin. It's like I know he's good in it other ways, but they just bring on a spinner then. That's all they need to do.
They get him out every time.
Yeah, and it's kind of like that's a key. It's like saying he's a great AFL player, he can't kick.
Yeah.
Except for the kicking, he's terrific.
He's pretty handy. Yeah. It is a crucial part of being a top order batsman.
Yeah.
At the highest level.
At the highest levels, playing all time. Now, getting to the story I accidentally went into earlier.
No, you promoed.
I previewed. Stephen Trigg, who's got sacked from Carlton and also from the Crows earlier on, he's been headhunted by Adelaide United for the vacant chief executive's role. Now, he hasn't necessarily said yes yet, but the Adelaide chairman, Greg Griffin, confirmed the 55-year-old Mr. Trigg was invited for talks at the home of Robert Gerrard. So these are all the people behind it. But Gerrard's a majority shareholder of the club.
I actually didn't realise that so many of the privately clubs are privately owned.
They are. Yeah. So they're looking at getting him, and he said, Stephen, this is Mr. Griffin, who's the chairman, but also a part owner. He said, Stephen Trigg is an incredibly talented operator. We would love to secure him. Do you think Triggy's going to be upset when he finds out that the A-League has a salary cap too? It's not the Premier League. And
it's less than what he's used to.
Yeah, this is a continual stumbling upwards.
Yeah.
Like someone who's got caught cheating the salary cap, banned for 6 months from the AFL, then gets hired by Carlton, does a job that they got rid of him.
Yeah, they flicked him last year.
Flicked him and
last season,
just keep falling upwards.
Yeah. What's Brian Waldron got to do to get a gig again?
Sean Brennan wrote in, what have Adelaide United fans done to deserve Stephen Trigg?
Well, that's your point exactly. I mean, do you think this will happen? I mean, the two blokes who own the club, Gerrard and Griffin.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not short of a dollar, so they're obviously successful, intelligent men.
Yeah.
You think they're barking up the wrong tree with Trigg? I mean,
well,
is there a lack of sporting CEO types getting around?
Well, no, there's not, but they all want a name. They all they all go, and then they all think it's going to be
someone who's done it before.
Yeah, it's like they forget that. And it's this thing. So the other thing I think happens, and it happens in everyone would know this from all their jobs, right? People get pigeonholed. And so if you've never done that job, so maybe you're the head of football operations at a club or something, they would prefer to get someone else who's already been a CEO.
Yeah.
Because they pigeonhole people. And the problem is it often means that people, like, once you become one of these and can say you've been whatever, that's all, people see you like that, and therefore will let you in, and they don't let others in who might be 10 times more talented.
Yeah.
And then, someone takes a punt on someone, and that's when there's more of an up or down risk, but it often works out a lot better. So, you know what you're going to get with Stephen Trigg, but what are you going to get?
You're going to get probably a drama and a sacking within 2 years.
Yeah, my advice to them is don't put him on a long contract.
Something that's not going to cost you a big payout in 3 years' time.
Now, tennis, which we're always we're starting to turn our minds towards tennis.
Australian Open starting in a few weeks.
Yeah, not that long, month or so. They've started to move into, and hello, who do you think might have tempted some of this focus? They're starting to target controversial mid-match first-round withdrawals at the Grand Slam. So this is people who basically get into the Grand Slam and often are carrying an injury, and there's been a lot of cases of this recently. and they don't opt out ahead of the match.
Yeah,
they start the match. They struggle through like 3 games or, a set, and then go, I'm injured, that's it. And they collect often, even though they collect the losers amount.
It's still not bad for 20 minutes work.
Well, for instance, former world number 1 Nicholas Malgro, he collected $50,000 for playing 4 games of tennis. Games, not matches, games, which lasted 23 minutes in last year's Australian Open. He denied he entered his first round match believing he wasn't fully fit, despite admitting a scan taken the previous week confirmed he hadn't injured his calf. So basically he just was...
So what are they going to do here? So obviously they're concerned that injured players are like...
knowingly going into games, knowing they're not going to make it through.
It's $50,000. It's $50,000. It's pretty good money.
Yeah, they know. And well,
is this the Tomic rule?
Yeah. Well, they know that if they say ahead of the match, I'm injured, so I forfeit, they get nothing. So they're better. So the incentive there is for them to show up, play.
I quite understand
3 or 4 games, and then go, thanks for the $50,000, see you later. Now, tennis officials have said, well, we're going to try. So what they're trying to do, and this was endorsed by the Grand Slam board in London, that unfit players, if they put their hand up before a match and say, my knee's buggered, or I've done my ankle or something, they will still receive 50% of the first round. If they withdraw on site after midday on the Thursday before the tournament. So that basically means that they will get something rather than nothing. So it encourages them to say, I'm injured. Then someone else, a lucky loser, will take their spot and will be able to collect the remaining 50%.
Some more than likely a young player who's just missed out trying to get a wild card or something.
So that's what it sort of does, and it's basically so they don't have spectators who have drastically shortened matches, basically.
Well, you see, you know what could happen here is a player in January will take advantage of this new rule, and he'll say, look, beforehand, I'm no good. I've done my calf or whatever. Yeah. So he pulls out of his first round match. He takes 50% of the prize money, and then they bring in a lucky loser, which will probably be Bernard Tomic, who has to qualify, and then Bernard will tank after 4 games anyway.
Probably will. That's right. So that's kind of interesting, isn't it? They've been gaming the system.
Yeah. Well, from a player's point of view, I mean, for your top guys who are worth squillions, there's plenty of girls getting around the tennis circuit. Yeah. Who $50,000 for a tennis match is possibly their biggest paid packet of the year.
But we've always said this: tennis is the easiest game to fix as well.
Oh, of course it is,
because it is just one person. Yeah. And you don't know. You only need to get to one person, or in this case, they're not being got to, but they're the only one that really probably knows. So they. What can you say? It's not a team sport. It's much easier to fix. Now, one thing that's been kind of interesting is a lot going on in football in this country at the moment. Soccer, thing is, or soccer or football, whatever people... I like to use both claims. I like to say football sometimes and soccer other times, so I annoy everyone.
I was about to say, you can annoy both groups. Yeah.
Or I call it football soccer. To just really
rub it in.
People get very upset about this. Yeah. This is not, like I said earlier, AFLX is a hill I'm willing to die on. Whether to call it soccer or football, couldn't really care less, as long as we all know what we're talking about.
True.
It doesn't. If you say soccer sometimes, it doesn't mean you hate the game.
No, it doesn't.
But a lot of these people go, you hate it, and you go, no, I just sometimes, because football is a term that's often used here for AFL. I often will just still avoid confusion, and they go, no, because apparently originally football was about sports played on foot,
right,
where as opposed to one played on horse, like polo and stuff like that. Okay. So it covered all rugby and
horseball,
hoofball. So anyway, one thing that's happened is A-League fans, of which I am one, so I'm not, they would have to be on Twitter and social media the most aggressive, miserable bunch
They're the most
of people.
defensive.
They are defensive and they attack everyone, and they are never happy. So it was announced that the A-League are having a Star Wars round yesterday.
Right.
And
how does that work? What's a Star Wars round?
It just means the round is themed, and they're going to have like a Star Wars tie-in, so they'll have stormtroopers. The AFL did this a few years ago. They have like T-shirts made up that are a cross between A-League and Star Wars. They have a BB-8 ball that not to be played at the game, I think, but you can buy it. They've got things for the kids to do. It's all about getting the kids down to the game. Anyway, everyone's like just reacted furiously.
What? Because why is this demeaning the great game of football?
Like this A-League fans, you could offer A-League. You could say on Twitter, Football Federation Australia is giving every A-League member, a gold bar. And they'd go...
a solid gold ingot.
They go, what am I going to do with that? Like, that would be the reaction. It should have gone to grassroots, mate. Like, that would be the kind of... the reaction. There's never a positive reaction.
So the Star Wars round, they'd be encouraging the use of flares.
That's right. Well, that's why I thought they should have done, if you're going to do a movie tie and do the perfect storm. Makes much more sense with marine safety. Horse racing should tie in with The Godfather.
Yeah. Well, I did hear an interesting thing about horse racing. Do you know that the horse is the only animal where it's legal to hammer a nail into it?
It's true.
It's true.
It's probably one of the few you're allowed to legally whip.
Yeah, but it is the only animal you can think of where it's perfectly legal to get a nail and a hammer.
This shows my massive ignorance, but are there any cases where you'd ever do it to a bovine of some description, a cow or something?
Oh, possibly, but I'm not
I know you don't ride them.
Wear hooves or shoes.
Yeah, you probably could hammer it into a cow.
You could in theory.
But why would you bother?
And we should stress that
someone's going to ride and go, you two are massive idiots. Yeah. You could never do it to a cow, or you do. I don't know what one it will be.
We should stress with horses, it's only into the hoof. It's not.
Yeah,
it's not into its neck or between the eyes.
Yeah, that's right. There are limits. There are limits. Now, I actually think this Star Wars tie-in is perfect because Star Wars is a movie, or was a trilogy eventually. Yeah. But the whole story is about a galactic civil war. And football/soccer in Australia is currently going through a massive civil war. So it actually
is it ever not?
Well, yeah, but it's absolutely perfect. So it could be by Friday. We're recording this on Wednesday. By Friday, it's possible FIFA could actually be running soccer in this country because they've been having a massive argument between Football Federation in Australia and a lot of the key stakeholders, including A-League club owners and local, the state bodies, are all having a fight between each other, with the A-League and the state bodies, so Victoria, New South Wales, South Australia, Perth, etc., have all wanted more control, more representation in the game. Yeah. Where after when Frank Lowy originally was brought in to clean up soccer on the back of the Crawford report, I think it was. Yeah. He was very much, it was like a dictatorship. It was, he's in charge, he's got the money being put in, government's backing him. I do want to say, and I actually think the game needed that for a brief period of time because it had been so all over the shop. But it's got to the point now, he's finished up, the game's grown to a point, there's money floating around, not heaps, but enough, that people are now wanting, saying, well, we've put money in to buy, we bought Adelaide United or Melbourne Victory. We want more say in where the money's been spent, given where, we've put our own money where our mouth is.
This battle's been going on for a while now.
Yeah, for a while.
It shows little signs of being resolved.
Well, it's getting close because FIFA have come out and put a lot of pressure on the FFA and said, you need to start being much more democratic in how you run the sport in Australia. And the FFA have been sort of talking to them and resisting this while putting through various scenarios of how they would like to do it. And so FIFA apparently have got to the bit where they could potentially step in and say, you know what, FFA, you're just not running the game the way we would like. Now, there's an emergency general meeting on Thursday, and it's got a bunch of claims that have been brought up. The Victorian government's apparently lobbied Football Federation Victoria to support Stephen Lowy, who's the chairman of the FFA.
What's it got to do with the Victorian government?
Well, the Victorian government have a say in it in ways in that they, and like all the governments and everywhere, like they've got saying like they run Amy Stadium. There's 2 clubs that play out of there. They've got involvement with they've got involvement with hosting some of the big games and all that sort of stuff. So they want certain things away, and they give a lot of money to the game. So they want it won. So that's one thing. And also so it's a battle here between the clubs in the states. And the FFA. Federal Sports Minister Greg Hunt told a Women in Football forum in Melbourne last week that if FIFA was in control of the Australian game, then if they had to come in and take it over, then Australia would not be successful in mounting a bid to stage the 2023 Women's World Cup because we'd be seen as a bit of a basket case. The federal government also earlier had warned that it might withhold $4 million in funding for the Women's World Cup bid if the row between the factions was not settled. And so FIFA's been looking at this and for a long time, and it keeps coming up. Now, the key bits, apart from the FFA, the A-League clubs, the Players Union are the 2 that are leading it. Now, apparently, with this meeting happened here of coming up with a new way of fixing all this, which is the end of November, the state federations are trying to push through another view. And apparently Victoria is sort of like the swing state. It hasn't decided whether to go with the Players Federation, Players Union, and the other states or support the FFA. And that's where it's basically
What do you reckon is going to happen? You follow this closer than I. What do you reckon is going to be? Is FIFA going to take over?
I don't know if they will. I mean, look.
How bad are you going if you have to be taken over by the most corrupt organisation in the world?
Well, well, maybe that's what they're not doing well enough, sorting out the bribe.
Just go to the.
I wouldn't be surprised if
briefcase full of green ones.
Victoria's going to be in the Victorian Victorian Football Association. They're an interesting bit because they've got the Vic government saying you better back Lowy, but the other states will be saying to them, come on, mate, you know. Yeah. And then also they've also got it suits them to back the anti-Lowy factions because the states get more power under that model. So it's going to be very interesting. Who knows? I don't know what's going to happen. No one really knows because it's not decisions haven't been made. But it's going to get very nasty. And I think in some ways the states and the Players Association wouldn't care if FIFA took over.
Well, that's. I mean, you've got to think. I mean, this has been, generally speaking, one of the problems that football/soccer's had over the years is that in Australia is that, like, we've just qualified for the World Cup, right?
Yeah.
And soccer over the years, simultaneously, they can have one thing go really well.
Yeah.
While they're shooting themselves in the foot at the very same time.
Yeah, yeah.
And this is the classic case. It should all be, let's get behind everyone. Russia 2018.
Yeah.
The A-League, everything will, after the World Cup, it's always a boost to the local game. It's all great. But in the meantime, they can't get their act together.
No.
So who knows? But,
I can't say I'm surprised.
No, not surprised. Hey, what did you make? One thing I did see in hospital a lot of the time was, apart from reruns of Instant Hotel and Family Food Fight, was Ange Postecoglou quitting.
Oh, well, I mean, I think he'd wanted to get out a long time ago.
Yeah, you got that feeling, didn't you, that it was just that last game against Trinidad, you just thought let's get through this, win the game.
I've heard, though, that for international coaches, like, so say you coach, whether it's Melbourne Victory or he's been linked to Rangers in the Scottish Premier League and various other things like that. So you're doing a club, half your games are in the city you're living in. Then, you might have to do a bit of travel away and stuff like that. But overall, that sort of... The international coaches, they, especially for Australia, used to keep tabs on all these players across all these leagues. You have to go and visit them. You're on there. It's apparently pretty grueling, and I think he just was sick of it.
He just done. Plus, he's got to deal with probably idiots at Football Australia and the A-League every second day
there was
of his
talk
life,
he wasn't happy with all that too. And they also, Football Federation Australia, they ripped a lot of money. They shut down a centre of excellence that was at the Australian Institute of Sport and said, we're going to put that money, we're still going to use that money for grassroots, but in a different way. And that centre had produced Viduka and a bunch of other top Socceroos. And then Ange was like furious at the time, but said, "Oh, I'm okay if you're going to use it in some way." And then he says that it's been said that they just haven't used it. It's just gone back into probably hiring more people for the FFA.
Yeah,
so I think he was not happy. So it's in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, it appeared to me he was just jack of the whole thing, and you got to say, as hard work as it might be, coaches internationally at some of the bigger leagues around the world, they get paid very, very handsomely.
Oh, yeah, he's not going to be poor.
No, he's going to, whoever he pops up with next, he'll be getting paid very well.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Good luck to him.
David Lloyd wrote in, getting to some listeners' questions, is the Serge comeback a Michael Clark-style comeback or a John Farnham-style comeback?
More a Stephen Trigg-style comeback.
Which just never ends. So Clarkey is still technically not retired. Remember he came out of retirement, big press. He did a big announcement. He leaked it all to the papers and then did a press conference and goes, "Well, I don't know why I'm having to do a press conference." Because you leaked it to the papers and then pretty much called a press conference. And then he played one club game, I think, or maybe two, and then just nothing's happened. So... So yours is more a John Farnham style one?
More Farnham and that, yeah. I'll
just keep dabbing them?
Every year do another tour, basically.
Dylan,
just cash up again for the next
That's right, when you need it. Dylan Walton wrote in, have you been following the Bennelong by-election? Did you know Christina Keneally has a basketball background? I think that's true. She played it because she was head
American.
of the she was head of NBL over here. Remember briefly?
Yeah.
And
she was.
She was CEO for a while and done a few different things like that. So that's kind of interesting. It's everywhere. Basketball backgrounds.
Well, so you got Christina Keneally with a basketball background versus John Alexander,
tennis
background. But he's never tanked in the first round.
Never. He always played.
He always lost on his merits.
It's that English blood flowing through his veins. They're all English and New Zealanders. Brad Cater, he wrote in, my wife has pre-ordered your book. This is my book, A Thoroughly Unhelpful History of Australian Sport, on sale now. He said he's pre-ordered my book, but I have to wait until Christmas Day to receive it. How can I make sure my family and friends don't reveal the plot or spoil the ending for me?
Look, Brad, I don't want to spoil anything for you either, but I will tell you, it's not a thriller or a novel. So you might be right on that.
In the end, it's just Stephen Trigg standing off into the sunset. It's the end chapter.
Sharing a beer with Ange Postecoglou.
Tom Nelligan wrote in, with the lack of a bridge and now a moat at Perth Stadium, and for those that don't know, they ordered a walk bridge over from East Perth across to where the new stadium is, and at Burswood, and they've had a lot of problems. It's not going to arrive till May next year.
And it wasn't not quite going to fit or something?
No, they ordered it from somewhere in Asia, and they've had disaster after disaster. Don't go online and buy these things. Yeah. Tom's written in, has Perth Stadium therefore finally taken the most inaccessible stadium mantle from Etihad?
Well, I think they probably have. I mean,
it's overrated being able to get actually into a stadium. This one you can actually get to. There's a train station right outside. There are other ways apart from the footbridge to get there. I still think Etihad Stadium, in terms of just unwelcome and
I was about to say
the unwelcoming nature.
Etihad isn't physically inaccessible as far as walkways or pathways or train stations concerned. There is just a general reluctance by management from the top down against patrons who might actually want to watch a game of football.
Do you know what? It's that typical thing that companies do where they go, there are ways that suit our way of doing things, which suit us.
Yes.
Like they suit, Telstra are good at this, you know. We have this system that does X. Yeah. And so therefore that's what you have to do.
Yeah.
And it's like, even if it's completely impossible for the, even if it's completely impossible for the actual client, like the customers, they don't care.
No, exactly. It's like Gillan McLaughlin said a year or two ago after one of these incidents at Etihad where half the crowd couldn't get in by quarter time.
Yeah.
He came out and he said, but they all just arrived right before the game.
Yeah.
I said, well, why wouldn't they?
Yeah.
It's not like there's anything.
They've been doing that for a century.
And it's not like there's anything on beforehand to entertain them. There's no reserves.
Yeah.
There's nothing else. And it's like, this was the spectators' fault.
Yeah, if you
turning
got
up.
here 80 hours earlier, it might be all right.
Yeah.
The other one I love is when they go, you should have printed your tickets off. And I said to them, well, I did, but your system then went down. And they go, oh,
Yeah,
well,
it's
tough.
Your problem.
Yeah,
man.
your problem.
Yeah, go down to gate 7. That might be open by half time.
It is just, you know what it is though, at Etihad especially, is they just don't want to put on enough staff.
No.
They don't want to pay the money.
And the other thing at Etihad...
It's always that. It's never, it's always the money.
And they never have, and this is the money thing again, the greed on the first level, the second level. Yeah. So often, I mean, you'll go to a game at Etihad, and the only seat they'll let you sit in is right up the very top.
Yeah,
even though the entire middle level is empty. But say, you can sit there, but it's going to cost you $85 a head.
Yeah, and it's like, and you're there at like
for Christ's sake,
you're there at a terrible game.
Yeah, for Christ's sake, just $20 or whatever. You can sit wherever you like.
I don't know if we talked about this, but it reminds me of that report that came out where they introduced variable ticketing, and their big thing was, sometimes it'll be cheaper, sometimes it'll be more expensive. Yeah. The clubs can move the prices up or down, and then they did a review at the end of this year, and they go, they've never moved it down. They've only ever moved it up.
When was it ever cheaper?
And everyone, and they, and it's like, what a surprise.
Yeah. It's like everything is like the government with power price or something. We've changed this. There'll be more competition, so prices will drop. Yeah. When do prices ever drop on anything? Never, ever.
Well, the only things that's dropped is everything when it started getting made in China.
Yeah.
But even that was because we just let kids build it for free.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But then you have problems like Perth's Footbridge because the kids that are building that are rubbish.
Yeah, it's a sweatshop in Shenzhen.
Yeah, they're terrible. Liam Briggs wrote in, with Port Adelaide drafting Lindsay Thomas in the rookie draft, are they also set to offer Mitch Marsh a lifeline? See, I'm happy
he's the forgotten Marsh now, isn't he, Mitch?
I'm happy to be proven wrong on Port Adelaide, but there was a lot after the draft where everyone was saying, and in the trade period and the draft and everything, everyone was saying, haven't Port done well? And I'm like, well, they've certainly bought in a lot of players, and I think Rockcliffe is a decent pickup.
He's a gun.
And he's, some people argue he doesn't use the ball well and stuff, but I mean, he's hard at it and he'll get the possessions and stuff, and they probably need an extra midfielder like that. But then I look at it and go, and this is not, like, Watts can be great, but he can also, more often than not, he's not.
Yeah, he can.
So he's patchy, and then you got Motlop, who is to me very similar, patchy at best. So they've picked, and then they get Lindsay Thomas, who says his best football's ahead of him, and I'm
his
like,
nickname is Patchy.
He could barely play for North last year, and North finished second last or something. So this idea that they've recruited amazingly well, to me,
both Adelaide teams are going to be very interesting next year to see how all this recruiting pans out.
Yeah, but a lot of it for Adelaide Crows was forced on them.
Yeah.
Like Lever saying he wanted it out and Charlie Cameron wanted it out. It was forced on them. Like, you can understand why, if you're a Crows fan, you're pretty bitter about all these players wanting out. But I kind of look at that. Port Adelaide thing, and I'm happy to be proven wrong. Like, we all know nothing about football, as Richmond showed us this year. But I just can't say even on paper why everyone's so breathless about it.
With Port, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw somebody the other day, it was only a couple of days ago, it was just after that rookie draft, so Thomas was there, the theoretical Port's best 22 next year, and it was including Watts and Rockcliffe and Motlop and Thomas. And you think, it doesn't look bad on paper, but it made their whole forward line look not brittle, but you'd say that's a forward line that one day might kick 27-9, but the next day they might kick 9-12.
Well, they might not even get that, and they might not even get because the whole thing Richmond showed is you need all 18 on the field for the whole game, putting on same pressure as a team. And I've never seen Watts or Motlop really do that consistently day in, day out. Now,
and Lindsay Thomas, some of his ideas of pressure, he ends up at the tribunal.
The other one we got on this was Dean Stainsby said, does Lindsay Thomas now replace Jimmy Toumpas as Port Adelaide's worst recruiting decision to date?
Time will tell, Dean. Time will tell.
It's an exciting competition. It's an exciting thing. I wonder if there's a market for that.
Nobody in recent times has put Jimmy in their best 22, I've got to say. I'm surprised he's still there.
Dread Pirate Roberts wrote in.
Haven't heard from him for a while.
With Ange Postecoglou quitting the Socceroos job, why hasn't the FFA contacted Terry Wallace? I like that because it's just that's just a pure sledge at Terry Wallace.
Yeah, well, they didn't have to. Terry Wallace rang them. I think.
We sent him a PowerPoint.
Poor old Stephen Lowe, he's opened up his emails and going, here's another one from the list manager. I'll just delete that.
Now, I've thought that the best question, and I like the one from Leon Ahern, will the ICC now enforce helmet for players when socialising with one another?
No, I'll second that. That's a ripper.
Well done, Liam. Now, terrific to have you back, Serge. And,
pleasure to be back. I'm very glad to be back. It's been good fun.
Well, it was a lot better than being in hospital.
Yeah, watching, bloody Instant Hotel. And
I was battered. I don't even know what family food something is.
Oh, it was like Instant Hotel is one of those crap D-list, low-budget shows that get played in November, December, but you'll never see them in prime time during the year. They're awful. So they're both finished now, which is thank Christ for that.
So you're just relieved to not be watching them.
Oh, exactly.
They didn't have Foxtel?
No Foxtel. Of course not. You get 5 channels. You
didn't fill up an iPad or something with various...
Well, I had an idea of doing that, but of course I didn't actually do it.
Yeah.
And then I took a bunch of books in to read, and I didn't read any of them either. So,
being in constant pain doesn't really make you want to feel like...
Yeah, it was, that when the OxyContin's kicking in that hillbilly heroin every 20 minutes, last thing, my dad gave me Lazarus Rising by John Howard, and I'm thinking, while you're hallucinating on hillbilly heroin, 900 pages of John Howard's probably not what I really need to read at the minute.
Did he give that to you to help you fall asleep? This will put things in perspective.
Yeah, but now I'm back home, and we got the cricket on the telly, we got the PGA on the telly this week. There's plenty to watch.
Yeah, got everything. Tennis coming up, BBL not far away. Yeah. It's exciting. Well, great to have you back. We will be back now that Serge is there. We should start to get back to something like a normal schedule.
Yeah,
but I think you'll agree you had a pretty good excuse. Much better than schoolies.
Yeah.
But you'll be right for next year.
I tell you what, getting a chainsaw through your chest is probably better than going to schoolies. I would have ended up in worse nick if I'd gone to schoolies.
On that note, we will see you next week.